This is what happens when you don't clean out your bookshelves on a regular basis. So 4 reporters go into a bar in Denver on a Saturday night. You think you've heard it before? So what's your punchline? My punchline is this: thousands of Christians are killed. Okay, it's all history, not the good history, but we'll try. Well, like all history, let's go back to the Gilded Age, like 1870 to 1900. Okay, so it's the last year of the Gilded Age, for whatever it is, in 1890. Towards the end, these 4 Denver reporters on a really slow Saturday night, they've been tasked with bringing in, an entertaining story, for their, 4 separate papers in Denver. So over cocktails, as usually this is where we end up with reporters, like historians, all drunk. No, I'm kidding. I don't drink water. So, towards the end of a very slow news day, they're drinking cocktails at the Oxford Hotel downtown. It's a sweet place, or was a sweet place. Apparently, the journalists there have been challenged by their editors, and so far none of them have come up with a good idea or don't have anything as far as it goes. So, Al Stevens, one of the reporters, says, in order to save some face and meet deadlines, we should just create a story.
Freedom of the press.
It's that stuff. Fiction always works best, right? Not in cells, because, fiction doesn't outsell true event things. Anyway, moving on. So, they reject the idea of coming up with 4 separate ideas because, let's face it, probably 2 of them were already tanked and couldn't type worth a crap. But they came up with one idea. Let's just do one storyline and we'll all feed off of it. And we'll meet our deadline. Okay? So they come up with the first idea is to write a story or a tale about a kidnapped victim from Boston that is currently being held somewhere in Denver. They're holding him for ransom. Negotiation is going on. And then they said, no. It's too easy to be debunked. All people have to do is, somebody will call the Boston Police Department and ask about the facts of the case, and they're going to look like drunk, or so it would be shot down too quick. So no, we can't do it that way. It'll be too easy to debunk. So this Union of Correspondents, they elected to go ahead and create a story somewhere like on foreign soil, somewhere far away. More remote, the better. If they're in the Stone Age, great. They picked China, northern China, to be more exact. So China was answer. They created a character by the name of Frank C. Lewis. That's Lewis. Not that it matters because, they just molded him out of liquor and paper. And they put him up. And they made him an engineer. They made him an engineer from Chicago. Not just any engineer, a civil engineer. So this engineer, he stopped in at Denver on his way west. Way west. And once in there, he was going to have several meetings once he got to China with some other Chinese officials and try to figure out what is the best course of action to demolition of the Great Wall of China. 1899, right? Okay. He was going to negotiate with them what to do with the wall that was left over, if they were going to demo all of it or just part of it, and if they were going to go ahead and just use the rubble and stuff, crush it down, and make a couple of new roads for commerce, to help facilitate international trade. Because absolutely, the Chinese government was willing to bring down this monstrosity to show the rest of the world they were open for business, and they wanted your business. Unbelievable. So to pad their deceitful articles, they stopped over at the Windsor Hotel. Now that is a top-of-the-line hotel, luxury, 5-story building at 18th and Latimer, downtown northeast corner. As they walked into the store, they all signed their bogus names to the register. 4 of them, 4 different names. And to make it work even better, they talked to the front desk clerk. It makes no mention, my sources, either one of them, whether there was any cash handed out, most assuredly, probably so. All he had to say was, if anybody came into that hotel inquiring about their stories, just say, hey, this guy came from the East, maybe from Wall Street, maybe from Chicago, I don't know. There are 4 or 5 of them. They came in, they paid their bill, they talked to a couple of members of the press, they left and went west, being San Francisco. So the next day, 4 papers posted their stories on the front page. Yeah. However, I got one source that says the Rocky Mountain News, they didn't publish it. They didn't print it. They didn't put it anywhere else. The same source writes that all of them, except for the Rocky Mountain News, published the stories, but buried them in the middle somewhere, which my other source says, no, it's front page. So, being a historian, you got to put both of them out because you can't prove either one. Now, I did find a copy of it. It looks like it's on the front page, but I can't tell for sure. So anyway, the Republican, the Times, and the Post, they print their stories. On June 25th, 1899, a Sunday, which proves my point, they were all drunk on Saturday night. So several days go by, and the papers across the country start picking these things up. And they don't, they start to embellish their own, add to it. The Fort Wayne Sentinel in Indiana. I've been to Indiana. They add something that says, they claim that the bricks for the wall were in fact going to be used as building materials for a dike to hold back the water of the Yangtze River. What luck! The year before, the Yellow River flooded. Okay, yeah, that's believable. Northern China. So, another periodical, probably in New York somewhere, added to the story, citing, hey, we came in touch with a Mandarin, which is, I guess, a guy from China who speaks Mandarin, because there's Mandarin, there's Szechuan, a couple of things. It's just not a menu item. So, and he was a Chinese official. Wink, wink, we don't know. Didn't see a picture of him. And he confirmed the story. So they just add that to the fire. So the story grew so quickly, and because of its international interest, the New York papers, or the East Coast papers, cabled it to Great Britain. Hey, these guys would like to know what's going on. They have an interest in China, as does most of Europe. So anyway, the story grows across Europe to the point that it's unbelievable. And they can't even hold it back. And it's read where? Northern China. Great. Uh, Unfortunately, and this is a big unfortunately, in China, the current state of affairs was volatile at best. The Sino-Japanese War had just ended in 1895. They weren't crazy about foreigners anyway. When the Yellow River flooded, they kind of thought that was influenced by the Christians. I'm not quite sure how that worked out with the missionaries there. There's no reference to it. But anyway, the Chinese political fashion was trying to gain control and was a little mixed on the royal approach, the emperor and empress. They were trying to show that they were still in control of these foreign dogs or devils, but they couldn't. So the Society of the Righteous and Harmonious Fist, FISTS, where most of its members were like practice Chinese martial art. The English, they called it Chinese boxing because, well, that's just the way it was. And now you see where the Boxer Rebellion's coming. So they were critical of foreign influences and missionaries. Things got worse. Remember that Christian thing going on? Yeah. 136 Protestant missionaries and 53 children were slaughtered by the Boxers. Some were executed, some were beaten to death. Yeah, the Catholics didn't fare much better. 47 priests and nuns, they were killed, along with 30,000 Chinese Catholic converts. Don't forget the 2,000 Protestant converts that were also slaughtered. Unknown number of Russian Orthodox members of the faith were killed. We don't, between 200 and 400, what both sources say, so they don't really know. It was reported by the British Missionary Society in England. All of their missionaries were killed, along with 120 converts of that faith. And the emperor and empress, remember them? Well, they had to flee too for their own safeties, because as rebellions go, not a safe place. Doesn't matter if you hedge your bets. So an 8-nation alliance was pretty much already there. I remember the Japanese had already invaded northern China. The Russians were real close to begin with. They're right there. Other nations have a lot of interest. The U.S., the Austrian-Hungarian dynasty, they were there. The British, the French, the German. The French were all over Indochina. You know it better as Vietnam. The British, Malaysia, Singapore, they were there. Germans, Italians, and of course the Japanese and the Russians. So they all had to get together and put down this rebellion, and they did so, within a year or so. So on September 7th, 1901, the 8-nation alliance, the ones with the guns fighting the guys that are boxing, they enforced the Boxer Protocol. The agreement called for the execution of any Chinese official who aided anyone in the Boxer Rebellion to be executed. Also, this is sweet, the payment of mere 450 million taels of silver to be paid to the 8-nation alliance over the next 39 years. To give you a reference on that point, that amount is like the entire tax revenue of China for 1 year. If you review all the facts, like I did, about this situation, the 4 reporters alone are not responsible for these events. Sort of. They certainly did not help. This made-up story on a slow news day, certainly by the time it got to China, didn't help that the Chinese are writing and listening to people saying, this foreign devils are going to knock down the Chinese Great Wall, make a road. So remember this little story whenever you read a report in a magazine or watch a news bite on MSNBC or glimpse an article on the internet. Not always, these things are not always true. Not everything is in print or online or broadcasted is always true. If it was, I'd have free solar panels now on my roof, which I don't. So please remember to subscribe if you like this. Ring my bell, ring your bell, and make a comment. Love to hear them. Got some good ideas before from other people. Like to hear your ideas. Okay, I know. I'm getting tired of this. History. Well, it's all history, and it's in the past. See you tomorrow. We'll talk about today. See ya.